In this video, now that we've got the light poles in and the street and building roughly in the right place, we'll look at getting some basic materials in more places in here and customize the scene a little bit. To start out, I'll pick the first building and right-click and hide the unselected object so I can see a little better what I'm doing. This will also let me move around the scene a little more easily, as with one object, it's easier to rotate around. Now don't be alarmed by these kind of jagged edges. That's simply a question of the resolution that the shadows are being drawn to. What I need to do is to get some simple materials going for the glass in the windows, and a few other things in here that are simply gray. I'll press M to pull up my Slate material editor. And we can see in here I've got some materials running around already. These are the materials we see on the buildings, windows that look lit with different maps or images that are part of those materials. Here's the tiling panels on one of the buildings, and further down here's a metal screen we see on the balconies. There's some test windows, as I've called them, and they look like they're lit in various places. What we'll do to start out is make some solid color materials, as these are very useful in a lot of places. For example, we need glass. We also need probably some chrome or something similar, and maybe a good white paint. We're going to use Mental Ray, and this scene already has Mental Ray on as a rendering engine. The reason for this is Mental Ray supports blurry reflections and bouncing light if needed. Under your materials on the left side then, there's your standard max materials, which are approximations of real-world shaders, plus some obviously non-real-world pieces, like ink and paint. These are good approximations and also useful in simply laying out locations for materials, and then being replaced with maybe a more detailed one like an Arc and Design. For now though, I'll go down to Mental Ray and double-click on the Arc and Design shader. The Arc and Design shader is a versatile utility material that can be almost any building material we need. In fact, I use the Arc and Design material for just about everything except skin and car paint, as we have special shaders for those, as we can see over here on the left, car paint and subsurface scattering. I'll double-click on this material, and there are its properties on the right. The first thing I'll do with the material is name it, and we'll call this one Glass Clear. This will be our good standard purpose window glass. This will be our all-purpose clear window glass we'll use in our buildings. Now I'll double-click on the sample sphere and then press H, and that rolls up the material, so we just see the sphere in the name. Once we've got our material ready, we may also want to turn on a background so we can see how it's going to reflect. Up on the top toolbar, right under Select and View, is the Show Background in Preview, and this lets me see how this material is reflecting. I can drag open that sphere if needed, give it a sec to realize it or render it, and I'm ready to configure this material. The default Arc and Design is a very glossy paint. What I'll usually do is start out in the templates on the right, and what these are some real-world materials and some conditions. Up at the top, for example, we have matte finishes, which I use in a lot of wall paint and things. Pearl finishes for soft blurry reflections, and glossy finishes for glossy paints. There's also some building materials like varnished wood, rough concrete, and so forth. And farther down are our glasses. I'll start out by choosing Glass Thin Geometry. This is suited for window glass. It's a clear glass that reflects but does not refract or bend the light as the light passes through it. That's all I need to do for this material. You'll find that the templates get you very far a lot of times. This material we can apply to all of our window elements, but we'll make one more while we're here. We also need, if we look at these window frames, something for the frames themselves, as right now they're just the blue object color. I'll double-click or drag another Arc and Design material in. Size up the sphere, double-click on it, and rename it. We'll call this one Bronze. And this is the bronze, the metal we're going to use on all the window frames. I'll select the material and press H, and upsize a little bit, turn on the background, and choose my template. For this, I'll drop down, and there's my metals: chrome, brushed metal, satin, copper, and so forth. I'll start this out as a satin metal, which is a soft metal with a decent reflection that's got a little bit of a blur to it. It's checked as a metal material, as this does a true metal shade if we need. I'll click on the color and put in a bronze. I'll bring up saturation and down value. In color then, yellow and blue make green. Yellow and black make bronze. And so this is really a mix of yellow with a lower value to get that bronzy green. Then a little bit more red in here warms it up just a touch. If we really boost up the red and bring up the value, we're into brass. Getting your metals right is a big deal, as we have lots of little bits of metal that surround us in the world. There's my bronze, and I'll pull down the reflectivity. When I'm forming the materials, one of the biggest things I'll do is consider not what color is it first, but how does it shine. Is it a metal or not? Is it reflective or not? And how good is the shine and reflection? Is it very soft or is it very concentrated? For this, I'll pull the reflectivity down to 0.5 and pull down glossy samples as well to 12. And this will speed up the rendering just a little bit. I'll also check fast interpolate. And this is one of the great things about the mental ray materials here. They can interpolate or blur reflection. I'll scroll down here into the fast glossy interpolation and check to what the interpolation is. And there it is at a grid density of half resolution, meaning if my rendering is 1280 by 720, my reflection is calculated at 640 by 360. Now I'm ready to assign my materials. This is a group, and so what I'll do is choose Group, Open, and pick these objects, clicking on the glass, and I can see here, if I pull the material out of the way, it's called Window Glass Storefront 007. I'll hold Control and choose Other Glasses. I'll pick the others, and I can also pick by name if needed, pressing H for Select Object from Scene. And there's my window glasses available. We can see in here there's just a few of these storefront glazings. I'll select both of them, click OK, pick the glass, and assign that material to the selection using the button up at the top. The glass turns black because that's the main color of this material, and now it's glass on those windows. I'll do the same with the window frames, selecting them, holding Control to pick the other one, and picking this bronze, assigning the material to the selection. Now I've got bronze window frames with glass in them. I'll pick the doors and assign my glass as well. There's 4 doors, which I'll pick, choose the glass, and assign. It's very easy to get through and assign materials like this. Having things named is a really big help, because that way you can pick things from a list as well. It looks like I've got some hinges and other things. I'll pick one, clicking on that door handle to cycle that selection, checking the name of the object, and making sure I have the right one. It's called Door Hardware 005. I'll press H to select from Scene, pick all the door hardware objects, and see if there's anything else that might need it. Looks like this is pretty good, just the door hardware, and I'll click OK. Then I'll pick that bronze and assign it. I'll work my way through the materials here. I'll probably look at creating maybe a white for the underside of the balconies in some of the buildings. We can see they've already got a perforated metal screen on the railing. I may also want to put on their railing frames chrome or something similar. I've got my bronze down below, and I can also make new colors and vary the colors of the columns or the side walls. We can see in here I've already mapped the side and the windows in here where the apartments are. Once you're done, close up the group, choosing Group, Close, and Unhide All. That's a right click, and there it is in the display quad. With everything unhidden, that building is looking better, and I'm on to the next one. In the next video then, once I go through and get all the materials squared away in their solid colors, I'll look at adding in textures. As we can see here, I've used some already. We'll put a texture on the road and concrete on the sidewalk.